In the endless darkness of space, the Galactic Empire ruled with an iron fist. Their fleets moved like shadows across the stars, their massive warships glinting coldly against distant suns. Planets in their control were quiet and obedient, and the citizens of those worlds rarely dared to question the Empire's authority. Life under the Empire was organized and orderly, but it came with a heavy cost. Every world had strict laws, curfews, and surveillance, and the fear of punishment kept most people in line. Rebellions were whispered about only in secret, in dark corners of spaceports and on backwater colonies far from Imperial oversight. These whispers, however, were faint, almost like the soft hum of a distant star, easily ignored or crushed if discovered. For centuries, the Empire had expanded, growing stronger with every system it conquered until few dared to challenge it. Their power was absolute, and their fleets were considered nearly invincible. Far away, beyond the main sectors patrolled by the Empire, there existed regions of space the Empire barely monitored. These regions were considered unimportant, and often left to drift in quiet isolation. In these forgotten areas, a small human crew aboard a modest exploratory ship traveled with a sense of freedom that was impossible under the Empire's rule. The humans were few in number and largely underestimated. To the Empire, humans were considered primitive, insignificant, and too fragile to matter on a galactic scale. Their ships were small, their technology limited compared to the massive Imperial fleets, and their political influence nearly non-existent. Yet these humans had a determination and curiosity that made them brave and bold, qualities that the Empire rarely expected from what it saw as a minor species. The human crew's mission was simple: exploration. They charted new star systems, logged astronomical data, and recorded alien worlds that no map had ever shown. They moved carefully, always aware that they were beyond the protection of any major power and completely alone in the vast emptiness of space. Their captain was experienced and intelligent, a leader who believed in both the power of careful planning and the courage to take risks when necessary. Every crew member had a role, and each understood the importance of their mission. They relied on trust, skill, and ingenuity to navigate the uncharted regions, far from the familiar lanes where trade routes and patrols of the Empire dominated. While the humans went about their work, the Empire continued its expansion elsewhere, never suspecting that in the forgotten reaches of space, a force entirely unexpected was quietly making its presence known. The human's ship was unremarkable to a casual observer, modest in size with no weapons that could threaten the Empire. Its technology was advanced only by human ingenuity, not by mass production or industrial might like the Imperial vessels. Yet what the humans lacked in size or firepower, they more than made up for with clever tactics, discipline, and an unyielding resolve. Every decision aboard that small vessel was calculated and precise. Every course plotted took into account the vast unknown, from asteroid fields to gravitational anomalies, from cosmic storms to uncharted planetary systems. Despite their small numbers and limited resources, the humans carried with them a quiet confidence. They were aware that the Empire saw them as insignificant, a species hardly worth noticing. But that perception worked to their advantage. The Empire never expected them to matter, never expected them to act, and never expected them to confront anything larger than the challenges of their own survival. In a sense, this lack of attention gave the humans freedom. They could move through the outer rims, observe, and plan without being under constant threat of Imperial interference. Their journey was filled with wonder, but also with tension. They were explorers, yes, but explorers who understood that danger could appear at any moment. Space was vast, unpredictable, and unforgiving, and the humans knew that even the smallest miscalculation could be fatal. As they traveled, the crew observed countless stars and systems that the Empire had never cared to chart. They passed by enormous gas giants swirling with storms, icy comets leaving bright trails through darkness, and distant suns casting their faint light on uninhabited worlds. Each discovery was logged carefully, each planet cataloged, and each anomaly noted. Some of these discoveries were completely unremarkable, barren worlds that could never support life. Others, however, were strange and fascinating, with exotic atmospheres, peculiar magnetic fields, or signs of civilizations long gone. To the human crew, these discoveries were more than just scientific data. They were a reminder of their unique place in the galaxy. They were small, yes, but they were free, capable of seeing things that no Empire officer could. On board the ship, Life was routine but disciplined. Each crew member knew their duties: navigation, engineering, communications, scientific research, and security. Despite the calm and precision, there was an undercurrent of tension. The humans knew that if the Empire ever took notice of them, their freedom would vanish instantly. They had trained for emergencies, for combat, and for survival in the harshest conditions space could offer. Yet the crew never let fear dominate. They focused on exploration, on learning, on pushing the boundaries of what humans could achieve in space. They celebrated minor victories like successfully navigating through asteroid belts or discovering a planet with signs of life. They mourned setbacks quietly, repaired damages to their ship, and learned from every mistake. As they traveled deeper into the uncharted regions, the humans began to sense that something larger was at play. Their sensors picked up faint signals, subtle anomalies that could not be easily explained. Strange energy readings, irregular communications from distant systems, and disturbances in space-time that hinted at forces beyond their understanding. None of it threatened them directly, but it gave them pause. The universe was larger and stranger than even their most ambitious calculations had suggested. The humans moved cautiously, aware that one wrong decision could attract attention from powers far greater than themselves. Meanwhile, the Galactic Empire continued its routine, unaware of the humans' progress. Imperial fleets patrolled the sectors that mattered, monitoring planets for rebellion, piracy, or smuggling. Their officers assumed that any minor species like humans would never have the capability to pose a real challenge. That assumption was deeply ingrained in their culture. To them, humans were a curiosity, not a threat. They were clever, perhaps, but ultimately fragile and insignificant. This underestimation was the Empire's greatest oversight, though no one yet realized it. The humans' mission, seemingly quiet and insignificant, was setting the stage for something extraordinary. Each charted system, each careful maneuver, each observation was preparing them for a future no one in the Empire could imagine. They were learning the layout of unmonitored space, discovering potential resources, and understanding the terrain of star systems far beyond the reach of Imperial control. Their knowledge, their experience, and their discipline would soon transform what was considered an ordinary human crew into a force capable of shocking the mightiest empire in the galaxy. Even in the silence of space, aboard their small vessel, the humans felt a sense of purpose. They were explorers, yes, but also pioneers, adventurers, and quietly challengers to the natural order of galactic power. The vast emptiness around them was not just a backdrop. It was a testing ground, a place where they could learn, adapt, and prepare for challenges that had no precedent. They moved with caution, but also with courage. Every calculation was precise, every action deliberate. They relied on each other, trusted each other, and understood that their survival depended on teamwork as much as on skill. Little did they know that their presence in the outer rim, in these regions ignored by the Empire, would soon have consequences that no one could predict. Their exploration, their discipline, and their courage would set the stage for a momentous event, an event so startling that it would ripple across the galaxy and leave even the most powerful officers of the Empire questioning their assumptions. A small human crew, unnoticed and underestimated, was quietly preparing for a destiny that would shock an entire empire. In those quiet hours, as the human ship drifted past glittering nebulae and silent stars, the crew went about their work with calm determination. They knew nothing of the empire-wide shock that their presence would soon cause. They knew only the stars, the ship, and each other. And yet in their small, disciplined actions, they were laying the groundwork for a moment that would change everything. A moment when humans, long underestimated and dismissed, would make their presence known in the most impossible and unforgettable way. In the silent depths of space, where stars flickered like distant lanterns in a black ocean, something extraordinary began to unfold. The Galactic Empire had been patrolling its territories, confident in its power and control, when sensors aboard one of their warships detected something unusual. At first, the anomaly seemed insignificant, just a blip on the long-range scanners, but as the readings came into focus, confusion spread quickly through the control room. It was not like anything the Empire had cataloged before. Something massive and entirely unfamiliar was moving through space in a way that defied all known patterns. The officers stared at the data, eyes wide, their hands frozen over the controls. What they were seeing made no sense. A human warship, huge, formidable, and unlike anything in Imperial records, had appeared seemingly out of nowhere. The ship's size alone caused alarm. While humans were considered a minor species by Imperial standards, this vessel dwarfed most patrol ships, its hull gleaming with a faint metallic sheen that suggested advanced engineering. Its design was unlike anything in the Imperial arsenal. Every officer in the room tried to make sense of it. Was it an experimental weapon? A rogue human faction operating independently? Or perhaps something entirely unknown, emerging from the outer reaches of the galaxy? Rumors had always circulated about humans being resourceful and cunning, but no one in the Empire had ever imagined they could construct a warship of this magnitude. The possibility that humans might pose a threat, however small, sent a ripple of unease through the fleet's command structure. The human crew aboard the mysterious ship remained calm, their movements deliberate and precise. Unlike the Empire's vessels, which were large and slow-moving, the human ship was nimble, responding instantly to any signals, threats, or anomalies in its path. Its sensors scanned surrounding space constantly, cataloging star systems, monitoring energy readings, and maintaining a vigilant watch for other ships. The captain, a seasoned and thoughtful leader, understood the importance of discipline. Every maneuver was calculated, every decision weighed carefully. There was no reckless aggression, no unnecessary confrontation. Yet the very presence of the ship in Imperial-controlled space was a declaration that humans could not be ignored. The Empire, initially baffled, scrambled to understand what was happening. Fleet admirals called emergency meetings, debating theories and strategies. Some suggested that the ship was a rogue element, an independent human vessel acting without coordination. Others feared it might be a precursor to something far larger, a hidden human fleet, quietly built and ready to challenge Imperial dominance. The officers argued over the ship's intentions. Was it exploring, as humans often did, or was it scouting, preparing for an attack? Every possibility seemed both plausible and terrifying. In a matter of hours, what had started as a minor anomaly escalated into a crisis. Imperial communications tried to establish contact, sending messages and signals to the human vessel. The crew aboard the ship received these communications but responded in a calm and measured tone, asserting their presence without hostility. Their voice, clear and confident, carried the weight of authority. For the first time, the Empire realized that these humans were not frightened, not intimidated, and certainly not inferior. They spoke in a way that suggested intelligence, discipline, and strategic thinking, far beyond what the Empire had anticipated from a species it had long dismissed. The officers on the Imperial ships could not hide their unease. Something about the human crew's calmness in the face of a far superior force was unnerving. As the human warship moved through Imperial space, it did so with deliberate purpose. It did not attack or provoke, but it also did not retreat or hide. Every movement was calculated, signaling confidence without aggression. Sensors recorded the ship's trajectory, which seemed to anticipate Imperial responses before they occurred. The Empire's commanders realized with growing apprehension that these humans were not only capable but intelligent enough to act strategically in unfamiliar and dangerous territory. Rumors began to spread among Imperial fleets and colonies alike. Whispers of a mysterious human vessel reached starports, military academies, and even the Imperial Senate. Officers who had long believed that humans were insignificant began to doubt their assumptions. Meanwhile, on the human ship, life continued with meticulous order. Crew members worked at their stations monitoring systems, scanning for anomalies and logging everything in detail. The engineers maintained the engines, ensuring that the vessel could sustain long-distance travel without interruption. The navigators charted complex courses through uncharted systems, avoiding hazards like asteroid belts, gravitational anomalies, and rogue comets. Even as the Empire scrambled to comprehend their presence, the humans remained focused on their mission: exploration, observation, and survival. There was no panic, no rash decision-making, only steady, disciplined action. This juxtaposition, the calm precision of the human crew against the growing chaos within the Empire, was striking. The Empire, accustomed to unquestioned obedience and unquestionable power, was forced to confront something entirely new. A small group of humans previously considered minor players had demonstrated the ability to act independently, decisively, and effectively in space. Their presence challenged long-held beliefs, revealing vulnerabilities that the Empire had never acknowledged. Commanders whispered to each other about what this could mean. Could humans, previously ignored and underestimated, really be capable of changing the balance of power? For the human crew, the Empire's confusion presented both opportunity and danger. They moved carefully, aware that any sudden misstep could provoke a catastrophic response. Their mission had always been exploration, not confrontation, but they understood that their mere presence was now a statement. By existing in Imperial space without fear, they were asserting that humans were not weak, that they could navigate challenges the Empire could not anticipate, and that they could operate with intelligence, ingenuity, and courage. Every decision reinforced this message, consciously or not. The human ship itself became a symbol. Its appearance out of nowhere, its massive size, and its advanced yet functional design created awe and fear simultaneously. Imperial officers stared at their screens, comparing it to their own vessels, and realized that the human ship could withstand damage, respond to threats, and maneuver with a speed and precision that their largest battleships could not match. Even without firing a single shot, the humans had already shifted the psychological battlefield. They were an unknown variable, impossible to predict, difficult to control, and impossible to dismiss. In colonies and sectors under Imperial control, rumors began spreading. Traders, explorers, and military personnel all shared stories of the human warship that appeared like a ghost in space. Some said it was a warning, others a challenge, but all agreed that it represented a force unlike any other. People who had grown up believing in the Empire's invincibility began to wonder if perhaps they had been wrong. Stories of human ingenuity, bravery, and precision circulated alongside news of the mysterious ship, fueling curiosity and fear in equal measure. The humans, unaware of the full extent of the impact, continued their course, maintaining focus on their mission while indirectly inspiring hope and doubt across the galaxy. As the days passed, the Empire intensified its surveillance, attempting to track every move of the human warship. Fleets were mobilized, scouts were deployed, and communications were monitored constantly. Yet the human crew remained elusive, never aggressive but never predictable. Every time the Empire thought they had anticipated the humans' movements, the ship would change course, navigate through unexpected hazards, or execute maneuvers that demonstrated foresight and adaptability. It became clear to Imperial strategists that humans were not only clever, but also capable of operating independently at a level comparable to the Empire's own elite forces. Within the human vessel, the crew remained aware of the Empire's attention, but did not let it dictate their actions. They continued exploring, scanning, and cataloging, always mindful of the risks but never allowing fear to limit them. Their captain maintained a careful balance between caution and initiative, ensuring that every crew member understood the stakes and the importance of discipline. In doing so, they demonstrated the very qualities that would later define humanity's reputation: ingenuity, courage, and resilience in the face of far greater power. By the end of this period, the stage had been set. The human warship, appearing suddenly and moving with precision and calm, had captured the attention of the galaxy's most powerful military force. The Empire, confident in its superiority, was forced to reconsider its assumptions. What had started as an anomaly had grown into a profound challenge, a reminder that even the mightiest empire could not predict or control everything. And all the while, the human crew continued their mission, unaware that their simple act of exploration was already beginning to change perceptions, shake confidence, and plant the seeds of future confrontation. The significance of this moment could not be overstated. A species long considered weak, dismissed, and irrelevant had proven that it could act boldly, intelligently, and effectively in a way that commanded attention. Without firing a single weapon, the humans had begun to challenge the Empire's dominance, forcing it to acknowledge that there were forces in the galaxy that it could neither ignore nor underestimate. For the human crew, the journey remained the same: exploration, observation, and survival. But the world around them was beginning to shift in ways they could not yet fully comprehend. Their presence was no longer just a mission. It had become a statement, a turning point that would resonate across the stars. By the time the Empire realized the full scale of the humans' presence, it was too late to dismiss them. The human warship had arrived, calm and deliberate, a symbol of possibility and challenge, and its appearance would not soon be forgotten. Across the galaxy, from the smallest colony to the grandest fleet command, people whispered about the humans who had appeared out of nowhere, confident and unyielding. The stage was set for a confrontation that no one could ignore, and the humans, though still focused on exploration, had already begun to make history in a galaxy that believed itself untouchable. The sudden appearance of the human warship in Imperial space had sent shockwaves through the fleets and command centers of the Galactic Empire. Initially, the anomaly had been dismissed as a minor irregularity, perhaps a malfunction in the sensors or some random cosmic disturbance. But as the ship's presence became undeniable, the Empire realized that this was no ordinary craft. Its movements were precise, intelligent, and deliberate. It was not hiding or fleeing, and it was certainly not erratic. The human vessel moved through the galaxy with a quiet confidence that left Imperial commanders uneasy, forcing them to consider possibilities that challenged their long-held assumptions about humans and their capabilities. The Empire's top admirals convened urgent councils, filling the massive war rooms with debates and speculations. Some argued that the humans were explorers, acting independently in distant space, and that they posed no immediate threat. Others insisted that the ship's size and design suggested a hidden agenda, perhaps a reconnaissance mission, scouting for weaknesses in Imperial defenses, or even the precursor to a full-scale rebellion. The disagreements escalated quickly. Officers pointed at star charts, cross-referenced data from distant systems, and calculated probabilities. Each theory seemed plausible yet simultaneously frightening. No one had ever accounted for humans taking such bold, calculated action in territory the Empire considered entirely under its control. Imperial communications were established immediately, sending repeated transmissions to the human ship. The messages were formal, commanding, and sometimes threatening, demanding that the vessel identify itself and explain its presence. The humans responded with calm authority, never aggressive but always firm. Their communication style conveyed discipline, intelligence, and a subtle confidence that unnerved the Empire's officers. For the first time, those in the Empire began to see humans not as a minor species, but as intelligent beings capable of independent action, capable of assessing situations, making decisions, and, if necessary, challenging authority. The very tone of the human responses sent a clear message. They would not be intimidated or coerced. Rumors began to spread rapidly throughout the Empire. Fleet officers whispered in corridors and mess halls about the mysterious human ship that had appeared out of nowhere. Traders and civilians caught wind of stories circulating via intercepted signals and informal communication networks. Each account painted the humans as disciplined, fearless, and unexpectedly capable. Some called it a warning, while others referred to it as a challenge. The stories created a growing sense of uncertainty and tension. For the first time, even the most loyal Imperial officers began questioning their assumptions, realizing that humans, long dismissed as inconsequential, might be capable of surprising feats. Meanwhile, the human crew carried on with their mission, aware of the attention they were drawing but not allowing it to dictate their actions. Their primary focus remained on exploration, observation, and survival. Every crew member knew the importance of precision, discipline, and calm. The captain maintained a strict regimen, ensuring that every maneuver, every calculation, and every response was deliberate. They monitored the Empire's movements carefully, noting the positions of fleets and the reactions of Imperial commanders. They avoided unnecessary confrontations, but they were always prepared to defend themselves if required. Their presence in Imperial space was bold, but calculated. As the humans moved through the galaxy, they demonstrated a level of strategic thinking that caught the Empire off guard. The ship's movements were not random. They followed careful calculations designed to avoid danger, while maintaining visibility and influence. The crew studied planetary systems, energy signatures, and the movements of Imperial fleets, adapting their course in real time. They avoided areas that were heavily monitored or could result in direct conflict, but they never retreated. Every action conveyed confidence without aggression, subtly signaling that humans were capable of navigating threats far beyond what the Empire had ever anticipated from such a small species. Imperial fleets tried to anticipate the humans' next moves, deploying scouts and patrolling nearby systems. Yet every attempt to predict the ship's trajectory seemed to fail. The humans consistently maneuvered with foresight, anticipating potential hazards, enemy positions, and energy fluctuations. Each successful navigation through uncharted regions reinforced the notion that humans were not only resourceful, but also intelligent, disciplined, and adaptable. Imperial commanders began to realize that the humans' abilities were not limited to survival. They could challenge assumptions, adapt quickly, and act decisively under pressure. The tension grew when the Empire attempted to assert dominance by positioning multiple fleets in the humans' projected path. The human crew, rather than panicking, responded with calm precision. They adjusted their course, moved through strategic points with careful timing, and avoided direct confrontation while sending clear messages of independence and self-assurance. This behavior left the Empire both frustrated and alarmed. The humans had not attacked, yet they had demonstrated a subtle mastery over the unfolding situation. Their intelligence, discipline, and strategic awareness forced the Empire to recognize that control over the galaxy was not as absolute as they had believed. Within the human ship, the atmosphere was one of focused determination. Engineers monitored systems with precision, ensuring that every engine adjustment and power allocation was optimized. Navigators calculated courses through hazards with accuracy, while communication officers maintained calm and deliberate interactions with the Empire's attempts at contact. Each crew member understood the delicate balance between exploration and potential confrontation. The captain emphasized discipline and teamwork, understanding that even a small misstep could escalate into conflict. Despite the growing attention from the Empire, the humans remained steady, exemplifying qualities of resilience, intelligence, and courage that the Empire had long underestimated in their species. Imperial observers began to take note of the humans' efficiency and composure. Every movement of the human vessel suggested planning, foresight, and understanding. Analysts noted patterns in their navigation, anticipating that the humans were studying the Empire as carefully as the Empire was studying them. Reports described the crew's ability to act decisively in uncertain situations, responding to threats or obstacles with a level of calm that contrasted sharply with the Empire's typical approach. The humans were not reckless adventurers. They were disciplined operators, capable of acting independently and effectively in environments that would challenge even the most experienced Imperial officers. This growing realization caused debates and divisions within the Empire. Some officers urged caution, recognizing that the humans' capabilities could pose a serious threat if underestimated. Others still clung to the old assumptions, arguing that humans were insignificant and that the anomaly would eventually disappear or retreat. The discussions highlighted a broader issue. The Empire had long relied on fear, obedience, and assumed superiority, and now it was being forced to confront the possibility that intelligence, discipline, and courage could emerge in unexpected places. The humans, without firing a shot or overtly challenging the Empire, had already changed the perception of what was possible for a minor species. As the humans moved, they continued to gather information, logging star systems, monitoring energy signatures, and observing the movements of Imperial fleets. Their work was careful and methodical, yet their presence alone had begun to alter the strategic landscape. Other species, traders, and explorers began to hear whispers of a massive human warship operating in Imperial space. Tales of its sudden appearance, the precision of its movements, and the confidence of its crew spread quickly, inspiring curiosity and, in some cases, fear. The humans were becoming a symbol, not only of intelligence and capability, but of the idea that even a small, underestimated species could influence events on a galactic scale. The Empire, increasingly aware of the implications, redoubled its efforts to understand the humans. Fleets were moved, surveillance increased, and communications intensified. Every report from the human ship was analyzed, every pattern scrutinized, and every potential strategy debated. The Empire began to recognize that it was no longer operating in a vacuum of predictable outcomes. Humans, long dismissed as irrelevant, had emerged as a wild card, an intelligent, disciplined, and resilient force capable of challenging assumptions and surprising even the most experienced officers. By now, the human crew had established a quiet dominance through their very existence. They had not engaged in open conflict, yet their disciplined, calculated presence had forced the Empire to take notice, reconsider strategies, and question previously unquestioned assumptions. This was a subtle but profound form of influence. Humans, who had always been underestimated, were demonstrating that courage, intelligence, and discipline could create power even in the shadow of a galaxy-spanning empire. As weeks passed, the humans continued their mission, moving through uncharted regions, avoiding unnecessary confrontations and maintaining a careful balance between visibility and safety. Every calculated maneuver reinforced the impression that humans were capable of strategic thought and decisive action. Imperial commanders, once confident in their dominance, found themselves second-guessing decisions, aware that the humans could act in ways that they could not predict. Even the simplest movement of the human vessel became a lesson in patience, strategy, and intelligence, a demonstration that true power did not always come from size or sheer firepower, but from careful planning, adaptability, and courage. The tension reached a point where both sides were aware of the stakes, even if no shots had yet been fired. The Empire had come to recognize humans as more than minor players. They were capable of making significant, unpredictable moves that could challenge assumptions and disrupt carefully laid plans. For the human crew, the attention from the Empire was a validation of their discipline and skill, but also a reminder that caution was essential. Their mission of exploration continued, but every action carried significance far beyond what they might have imagined when they first entered this uncharted region of space. At the conclusion of this period, the stage was fully set for future confrontation. The humans had demonstrated that they were intelligent, disciplined, and capable of independent strategic action. The Empire had begun to recognize that underestimating humans could be a critical mistake. The galaxy, once calm and orderly under Imperial control, was now filled with tension, curiosity, and uncertainty, and in the midst of it all, the humans moved steadily, calmly and confidently, unknowingly preparing for a moment that would change perceptions, challenge authority, and redefine what was possible for a species long considered minor and inconsequential. The moment of confrontation finally arrived. The human warship, which had moved silently and deliberately through Imperial space, was no longer just a mysterious anomaly. It had become a presence impossible to ignore. Imperial commanders, who had long underestimated humans, now faced the undeniable reality that this species was capable of challenging even their most well-prepared fleets. Across the galaxy, signals buzzed with tension, fleets mobilized with urgency, and officers debated strategies with growing anxiety. The humans, meanwhile, continued their mission, aware of the Empire's attention but confident in their abilities. Every crew member knew that they were on the edge of a historic moment, a test of courage, skill, and discipline that would not only define their fate, but potentially shake the foundations of the Empire itself. Imperial fleets moved to engage the human warship with the intent of asserting dominance. Massive capital ships, bristling with weaponry and shielded by the latest defensive technology, positioned themselves strategically, creating a formidable barrier. Their commanders believed that sheer size and firepower would be enough to intimidate the human crew, to force them into submission or retreat. Orders were precise: cut off escape routes, overwhelm with superior numbers, and demonstrate that the Empire's might was unquestionable. But as these fleets maneuvered into position, they found themselves facing a new reality, a species that refused to act according to expectation, that responded with intelligence and precision rather than fear. The human crew remained calm, their discipline shining through in every action. Sensors scanned the incoming Imperial forces, calculating trajectories, weapon ranges, and vulnerabilities. The captain's commands were clear and measured, each designed to maximize their advantage without escalating conflict unnecessarily. While the humans were aware of the danger posed by the Empire's vast fleet, they understood the value of patience and strategic thinking. They did not panic, they did not charge recklessly, and they did not allow intimidation to dictate their choices. Instead, they relied on preparation, observation, and their intimate knowledge of their ship's capabilities. As the fleets approached, the human warship executed maneuvers that astounded Imperial officers. It moved with agility and precision, avoiding potential traps and intercepting points with careful timing. The Empire's largest ships, designed for power and destruction, struggled to match the human vessel's speed and adaptability. Every attempt to corner or overwhelm the humans failed, not because of luck but because of calculated planning and decisive action. The crew anticipated challenges before they arose, adjusted course to maintain strategic advantage, and utilized every system on their ship to its fullest potential. What had begun as tension and speculation escalated into a full-blown psychological confrontation. The Empire realized that brute force alone might not be enough to dominate these humans. Observers, both aboard the human ship and across Imperial fleets, witnessed something remarkable. The humans' skill in navigation, engineering, and tactical thinking was on full display. Engineers recalibrated shields and energy distribution in real time, diverting power to engines, weapons, or defensive systems depending on the situation. Navigators adjusted courses through complex trajectories that accounted for gravitational forces, debris fields, and enemy movements. Communication officers maintained clear, concise updates, ensuring that every crew member was informed and prepared. Each action was deliberate, precise, and effective, reflecting not only technical expertise but a deep understanding of strategy and risk management. The Empire attempted several assaults, testing the humans' defenses and looking for weaknesses. Lasers and projectiles were fired, energy shields tested, and tactical maneuvers executed. The human crew responded with a combination of precision, ingenuity, and adaptability. Defensive systems absorbed impacts, engines executed sharp evasive maneuvers, and countermeasures disrupted targeting systems. Each attack was met with a calculated response, minimizing damage while maintaining strategic advantage. Imperial commanders were both frustrated and fascinated. Here was a species they had dismissed, not only surviving but demonstrating a level of tactical brilliance that rivaled their own most elite officers. The human warship's ability to maintain composure under pressure was another key factor in the confrontation. In the face of overwhelming numbers and intimidating firepower, the crew acted with confidence and clarity. They relied on protocols developed over years of disciplined operation, anticipating potential dangers and preparing solutions in advance. Every member of the crew understood the importance of teamwork, communication, and calm decision-making. There was no panic, no chaos, no hesitation, only focus, precision, and determination. The humans' discipline transformed a potentially desperate situation into a display of competence and mastery. The psychological impact on the Imperial fleet was profound. Commanders who had once believed in their species' absolute superiority now faced uncertainty. Orders were second-guessed, strategies questioned, and assumptions challenged. The humans' calm and calculated actions demonstrated that power was not merely a matter of size or firepower, but also of intelligence, preparation, and courage. Rumors spread among Imperial personnel, tales of a human crew capable of outmaneuvering entire fleets, surviving attacks that would have destroyed larger ships, and responding with confidence and efficiency that defied expectation. This revelation, quietly but steadily, began to shift perceptions across the Empire. Despite the tension, the humans were not reckless aggressors. Their goal was not to destroy, but to demonstrate capability, protect themselves, and continue their mission. This distinction was crucial. By avoiding unnecessary escalation, the humans maintained moral authority in the eyes of those watching. They did not provoke the Empire, yet they could not be intimidated or controlled. Every movement, every decision reinforced the message that humans were disciplined, capable, and worthy of recognition. Their courage was not loud or dramatic. It was precise, measured, and highly effective. As the confrontation progressed, small victories accumulated for the humans. Imperial ships found their attacks neutralized, their positioning countered, and their movements anticipated. Every successful maneuver boosted the crew's confidence, solidifying their cohesion and reinforcing the captain's leadership. They remained fully aware of the stakes, understanding that one mistake could lead to disaster. Yet the crew operated with poise and intelligence, turning pressure into opportunity. Their actions demonstrated that even in the shadow of overwhelming power, preparation, skill, and courage could tip the scales in unexpected ways. The climax of this struggle was not a single explosion or decisive attack, but the ongoing demonstration of superiority through intelligence and discipline. The humans' ability to survive, adapt, and respond effectively made the Empire reconsider everything it thought it knew about strategy, power, and the potential of minor species. Observers could not help but be impressed. Reports detailed the humans' calculated responses, their teamwork, and their ability to maintain calm under pressure. The confrontation had evolved beyond a simple engagement of fleets into a lesson in strategic mastery and psychological impact. Through every maneuver, the human warship sent a clear message. They would not be bullied, intimidated, or underestimated. Imperial commanders were forced to adapt, rethink, and acknowledge the humans' capabilities. The battle became a turning point, revealing that courage, intelligence, and discipline could create power even against seemingly insurmountable odds. The humans had proven that their presence was not random or insignificant. They were capable, competent, and ready to act decisively when necessary. Even as the confrontation continued, the human crew never lost focus on their mission. They understood that the Empire's attention brought danger, but it also provided an opportunity. Every scan, every observation, and every calculated maneuver was part of a broader strategy. They were not just defending themselves, they were demonstrating the potential of humanity, showing that intelligence, preparation, and courage could challenge even the mightiest empire. By maintaining calm, making precise decisions, and avoiding unnecessary aggression, the humans turned what could have been a desperate situation into a powerful statement of skill and discipline. The Empire, meanwhile, faced a crisis of perception. Their fleets, confident in their size and firepower, had failed to intimidate the humans. Their assumptions about human weakness had been shattered. Officers debated strategies, reviewed protocols, and questioned long-held beliefs. The humans had not just survived, they had forced the Empire to recognize a new reality, that underestimating a determined, disciplined, and intelligent species could lead to unpredictable consequences. Across fleets and command centers, the impression grew that humans, though few in number, possessed a strategic insight and courage that demanded respect. By the end of this confrontation, the human warship had achieved something remarkable without firing a decisive weapon. Their skill, discipline, and composure had demonstrated superiority through intelligence and precision rather than brute force. Imperial commanders, forced to witness the humans' capabilities firsthand, began to reassess their approach. The battle, though not concluded with explosions or devastation, had already been won in a different way. Humans had proven that they were capable, resilient, and unexpectedly formidable. Their actions left a lasting impression, both on the Empire and on the galaxy as a whole. The encounter would be remembered not for destruction, but for mastery. It had shown that courage, intelligence, and discipline could challenge assumptions and redefine the balance of power. The humans, by acting with calm precision, had not only survived but had emerged with credibility and respect. Imperial officers would long remember the efficiency, skill, and bravery of the human crew. The confrontation had reached its climax, not through domination but through demonstration of capability. Humanity had proven for the first time that even against overwhelming odds, preparation, intelligence, and courage could create a force impossible to ignore. And so, the human warship, moving with calculated precision through the galaxy, emerged from the confrontation unscathed but forever changed in the eyes of the Empire. It had turned fear into respect, uncertainty into recognition, and invisibility into legend. The humans had not just survived, they had made their mark. Across the stars, whispers would circulate of their skill, discipline, and bravery. They had demonstrated that even a single, carefully led ship could alter perceptions, challenge authority, and leave an indelible impression on an empire that had once dismissed them entirely. After the tense confrontation with the Galactic Empire, the human warship continued its journey through space, leaving a trail of amazement and disbelief in its wake. The fleets of the Empire, which had come prepared to assert dominance, were left to reconsider everything they thought they knew about humans. Reports and communications from the encounter spread quickly across the Empire, carrying stories of a crew that had appeared from nowhere, navigated impossible situations, and emerged unscathed against overwhelming odds. Across the galaxy, whispers grew into rumors and rumors into legends. The humans had proven themselves capable, intelligent, and brave, and even those who had never seen the ship firsthand began to speak of its extraordinary capabilities. The human crew, aboard their vessel, experienced a mixture of relief and cautious satisfaction. They had survived encounters that could have destroyed them many times over, and they had done so with calm and calculated skill. Each crew member understood the significance of what they had accomplished, yet none allowed hubris to interfere with their mission. Exploration remained their primary goal. They knew that the Empire's fleets would continue to monitor them, that future confrontations might occur, and that their every action was being observed. But they also knew that their display of capability had shifted perceptions, not just among Imperial officers, but across the galaxy. Their presence had created an entirely new understanding of what humans could achieve. The Empire, meanwhile, faced a crisis of confidence. Officers and commanders debated the encounter endlessly. Some argued that the humans had been lucky, that the encounter did not prove superiority but only clever navigation and timing. Others admitted that the humans' discipline, intelligence, and courage had surpassed anything they had expected. They had not only survived, they had forced the Empire to recognize that underestimating humanity was a grave mistake. Orders were sent to fleets across multiple sectors to increase surveillance and prepare for any potential human action. The Empire understood that this was no longer a simple anomaly. Humans had demonstrated that they were capable of independent strategic thought, and that they could influence events in ways that were unpredictable. Back aboard the human vessel, the crew reflected on the lessons they had learned. Every maneuver, every calculation, and every decision had been part of a broader strategy. To survive, to demonstrate capability, and to continue their mission without escalation. They had relied on teamwork, intelligence, and careful planning, and these qualities had carried them through the confrontation. The captain, while proud of the crew's achievements, reminded everyone that their work was not yet complete. Space was vast and unpredictable, and the galaxy was full of dangers beyond even the Empire's reach. They would continue to explore, to observe, and to navigate the unknown, using the experience they had gained to strengthen their operations. The encounter had consequences far beyond the immediate tactical situation. Across the galaxy, oppressed populations and smaller civilizations began to take notice. Stories of humans standing firm against the Empire inspired hope, a sense that even the most powerful force could be challenged by courage, intelligence, and strategy. For planets under strict Imperial control, these stories became more than legends. They were symbols of possibility. They suggested that even the seemingly weak and overlooked could make a difference, could act decisively, and could defy expectations. The human warship had become a beacon, not of violence, but of capability, resilience, and hope. Imperial officials, however, were determined not to appear weakened. Strategies were revised, fleets were repositioned, and communications were carefully monitored. They recognized that the humans had introduced a new variable into the galactic balance of power, one that could not be ignored or dismissed. Intelligence officers worked tirelessly to understand the ship's technology, tactics, and movements. Scientists and engineers attempted to study the human vessel's capabilities remotely, seeking to uncover weaknesses or patterns that could provide the Empire with an advantage in future encounters. Every action was analyzed, and yet, despite all efforts, the humans remained an unpredictable and elusive force. For the human crew, maintaining vigilance was crucial. They continued to scan space, record data, and monitor potential threats. Every system aboard the ship was maintained meticulously, from the engines to the shields to the communication networks. Crew members rotated shifts with precision, ensuring that the ship was always at peak readiness. While they had survived their initial confrontation with the Empire, they knew that the galaxy was full of dangers yet unseen. The experience had strengthened them, not only in skill but in confidence. They had faced an overwhelming force and emerged intact, demonstrating that intelligence, preparation, and courage could overcome even seemingly insurmountable challenges. The humans' ability to inspire was another unexpected consequence of their actions. Across multiple star systems, observers, traders, and explorers shared stories of the human warship that had appeared from nowhere. They spoke of the crew's discipline, of their ability to navigate impossible situations, and of the calm courage that had allowed them to face the Empire without fear. The tales spread quickly, creating a network of knowledge and inspiration that reached species far beyond the humans' immediate sphere. Even within the Empire, whispers of admiration and unease circulated, challenging long-held beliefs about humanity's place in the galaxy. The crew had become more than a ship. They were a symbol of resilience, intelligence, and determination. The human captain understood the importance of their actions. Every choice, every maneuver, and every decision was not only about survival, but about sending a clear message to the galaxy. They were demonstrating that humans could act independently, strategically, and courageously. The captain emphasized that discipline and teamwork were key, that the crew's unity and focus had been the factors that allowed them to navigate a confrontation with one of the galaxy's most powerful forces. By maintaining composure under pressure and avoiding reckless actions, they had set an example of what could be achieved through intelligence and preparation. As they continued through uncharted regions of space, the crew encountered new challenges, each requiring the same careful attention and strategic thinking. Asteroid fields, gravitational anomalies, and distant stellar phenomena tested their skills. But the experience gained during their encounter with the Empire allowed them to navigate these dangers with confidence. Every challenge reinforced the crew's cohesion and discipline, making them more prepared for whatever might lie ahead. They had learned that intelligence, foresight, and careful planning could turn potential disaster into opportunity. Meanwhile, the Empire remained cautious. Fleet deployments were adjusted to account for potential human activity, surveillance was increased, and communications networks were monitored for signs of further action. Yet despite all precautions, the humans continued to demonstrate unpredictability and skill. Every movement of the ship highlighted the gap between expectation and reality, forcing the Empire to constantly reassess and adapt. The humans had become a factor that could not be controlled, a reminder that even in a galaxy dominated by one powerful empire, unforeseen variables could shift the balance of power. The human crew's legacy began to take shape not through conquest, but through influence. Their ability to face danger with intelligence and calm courage had created a story that resonated across species and civilizations. For smaller planets and civilizations under imperial control, it became a symbol of hope, a reminder that skill, bravery, and determination could overcome even overwhelming odds. For the Empire, it was a lesson in humility, a stark reminder that power alone did not guarantee control. The encounter had changed perceptions, expanded possibilities, and introduced a new understanding of what humans were capable of. In time, the humans' actions became legendary. Across the galaxy, stories circulated of a crew that had appeared from nowhere, faced the Empire without fear, and demonstrated mastery through intelligence and discipline. The ship itself became a symbol, a reminder that even a single, well-prepared and courageous crew could influence the galaxy in profound ways. While their mission remained exploration, the humans had already achieved something extraordinary. They had forced a powerful empire to recognize them, respect them, and reconsider assumptions about the capabilities of their species. Even as they moved on, the encounter continued to shape events. Imperial officers shared reports, debated tactics, and analyzed the humans' methods, while observers from other civilizations watched with awe and curiosity. The humans had become a benchmark, a standard of courage, intelligence, and skill that would inspire future generations. Their journey through uncharted space was no longer simply about exploration. It had become a story of resilience, capability, and the power of determination. For the human crew, the experience reinforced their understanding of what was possible. They had faced a powerful force, emerged intact, and demonstrated that intelligence, discipline, and courage could overcome even overwhelming odds. The galaxy had taken notice. Their actions would be remembered not for destruction, but for the lesson they had provided. That preparation, teamwork, and unwavering resolve could challenge assumptions, change perceptions, and leave a lasting mark. As the human warship continued its journey, the crew reflected on their mission, the challenges they had overcome, and the legacy they were creating. They understood that the galaxy was vast, that dangers and opportunities lay ahead, and that their actions had changed the way humanity was perceived. They had faced the Empire and demonstrated that even a small, underestimated species could influence events on a scale that few could imagine. Their story, already spreading across civilizations and fleets, would endure for generations. In the end, the humans' journey was not about conquest, revenge, or aggression. It was about capability, intelligence, and courage. It was about demonstrating that even in the face of overwhelming power, preparation and skill could allow the impossible to be achieved. The Empire had been shocked, observers inspired, and the humans had created a legacy that would echo across the stars. Their mission continued, but their impact had already been made. A reminder that even in a galaxy ruled by a powerful empire, Courage and intelligence could redefine the boundaries of possibility.